Hello, nerds. Hello, hello, hello. Hi, Brian Lee. How are you?
I am fantastic, Sarah. I feel very overmatched when it comes to this topic of discussion, so I will just speak when spoken to.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the inaugural episode of One Pod to Rule Them All. This is the newest show to be welcomed into the Nerd Life Network family, and I am your host, Sarah Lydia. And with me today, Mr. Brian Lee. He is our executive producer and most likely voted to be the glue that holds our nerdy little family together. So very happy to have him with me here. We bonded when we first met each other. We bonded almost immediately. Would you say, Brian, over Lord of the Rings?
Yes, certainly. Your picture had a sign at Hobbiton, and I knew it was a match made to be at that point in time.
Yes, destiny. Absolutely. So before we get into it, a little bit about what you can expect here on One Pod to Rule Them All. As you may have already guessed, we are a show. We are a safe space to nerd out about anything Lord of the Rings related, specifically Rings of Power on Amazon Prime. We'll be breaking down the episodes for you, giving you our hot takes, breaking down references to Tolkien's original text, talking about character origins and backgrounds, uncovering Easter eggs, and occasionally putting on our little tinfoil hats to talk possible theories about upcoming episodes, where the writers might be going with certain characters, things like that. So
Hot takes and
basically,
tinfoil hat from me, everything else from Sarah.
I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. So basically, if you're a Lord of the Rings nerd, welcome. You have found your home, your podcasting home for the next 2 months. So happy to have y'all with us tonight. Um, let's start. Brian, do you want to start with your top 3 moments from both episodes? So 2 hours of television, top 3 moments.
2 hours of
Go.
television that started off with a bang. I think the first, what was it, 17 minutes before we
17
got to the
minutes.
title card. That was a lot of fun. I will say all the effects are working really well for me, except for that very first scene where we get Galadriel with the hanging from the dagger from the ice cliff. That looked a little
Yep.
bit green screen to me, but everything else has landed perfectly. They're doing a really good job. So moment one, I'm just going to give to that whole first 17 minutes, all the way up through her stabbing the snow troll in the head. Full spoiler alerts for Rings of Power episode 1 and 2.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but we like that got us going really, really well. Um, moment two, I'm gonna have to go with Durin and his entire family. Um,
Yep.
with all the dwarves, I think that was a lot of fun. Doran's wife. What's Durin's wife's name?
Disa.
Disa. I am all in on Disa. Beard or no
Same.
beard, I am all in on Disa. I'm excited for her. Um, I I really like the guy that plays Elrond. So I'm excited to see where we go there. Moment three is Bronwyn. I believe is her name. Again, I'm relying solely on the show to tell me how to say everybody's names. But she the what I know the actress from is she played Barney's girlfriend on How I Met Your Mother, Nora. That's
Oh,
that's really the only place that I know her from. But I love her.
okay.
I think she's really good in the show. I'm excited. I like her relationship she has with that very handsome elf who's been pulled in by a bunch of hands in that dark cave. But that scene when she was in the cupboard and the orc came out of the floor looking like Predator a little bit, that scene was intense, and I really, really enjoyed that scene. So those are my three favorites. A lot of other good stuff intermixed. I'm 90% all in on this show. I don't like Nori, and we'll talk about that, but I don't like
Yeah.
Nori.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. I had 2 out of the 3 that you gave. So my top two were the opening. That opening was phenomenal. And just because I tend to be more of a textual loyalist. I don't even know if that's a word. I'm going to make it a word. It's a word. I love the original Lord of the Rings books, and I actually just reread Silmarillion earlier this year. It's
On a
great
Tuesday.
to put what?
I said just on a Tuesday. You just had the
Just on
hankering.
a Tuesday. I was doing inventory. I have a bunch of comic books, and I sell comic books. If you're looking for a comic book, hit me up. But I was doing inventory, and it's so mind numbing that it's perfect to just put on an audiobook and just listen. And so technically, I guess my book nerds wouldn't say I reread the Silmarillion. Technically, I listened to it.
If you listen to an audiobook, you read the book, Alex.
I wasn't going to call names, or I wasn't going to call anyone out. But yes, Alex, it's talking to you.
That was your first one. You said 2 of our 3 overlap, but I
Yep.
might have thrown you a curveball. What was your second one?
Well, okay, so yeah, you did. So the worm. The worm was excellent. I loved that whole in the second episode when Galadriel is, I guess, struck by lightning. Is that what happens?
Yeah, then she
And
sinks to the bottom of the whole thing.
yes, yeah, and handsome face, what's it, Hallbrand dives in after her. It was big Sam and Frodo vibes for me when Frodo reaches down and grabs Sam. Loved that. That whole thing, the underwater camera, like when it's like half underwater and half over the top. Oh my gosh, it was so good. And J.A. Bayona, I feel like he's good at the suspense stuff. Like if you've seen Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom,
Yes, unfortunately, I hate that
yeah,
movie. I do
he's
not like that movie. He improved tremendously for me between that film and these 2 episodes.
yes, absolutely. I feel like maybe this is more his wheelhouse. Is like I mean, I don't know, but I really I liked the um
Well, part of my biggest problem with Fallen Kingdom is they stayed the entire story in one location. They covered plenty of
yes,
locations around here, so
it is very epic. It's a huge scale, which I love. But speaking of scale, we have a gigantic cast. But I'll hit the high notes here. So Morfydd, is that how you say her name? Morfydd Clark
as far as I know.
Galadriel.
Thanks for
Um,
watching.
and then we've got Robert Aramayo for Elrond, Ismael Cruz Cordova for Arondir. You know what? As I go through these, I'm going to say whether or not they're canon so that you know if they're from the original Lord of the Rings text versus whether or not they were created for the show. So Galadriel and Elrond are both canon.
No,
They're
there.
in they're in the Lord of the Rings movies. I think we get cameos in the Hobbit films, and then they're also in the Silmarillion. So um, those two major characters there. We have Eleanor Nori Brandyfoot, who is not canon. Tolkien did not create her. The showrunners created her, as well as Arondir and Bronwyn. And then we have Keller Brimbur, and I will once we start talking about the episodes, I'll give more of a character synopsis because I don't want to take up too much time here. But Keller Brimbur is canon. He was created by Tolkien. He's part of the Elven Smiths from Eregion. But anyway, he's played by Charles Edwards. And Ron, Galadriel's brother, Fletcher. Owen Arthur plays Prince Durin IV. Sophia Nomvete plays his princess, Disa. Benjamin Walker is another of Brian's favorites, the High King Gilgalad. And then
That
Charlie
dude's
Vickers.
shady. That dude's super
He's
shady.
shady. He's shady. He is shady. Yeah, because you have to the leaf that he grabs at the end, and it's got like the black gunk growing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
That can't be the only one, and he's just now seeing it, right?
I assumed he was just now seeing it, but I assume
Okay.
it's not the only one. But I mean, it has strong Moana vibes to it. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
somebody's got to go save the
Ooh,
entire kingdom.
that's a good one. Then we have Charlie Vickers as Halbrand, which is Brian likes to refer to him as handsome face, and that's how I will refer to him from here on out. Charlie Vickers,
Did you
he's the one that
say
saves Galadriel from drowning.
Ismael Cruz Cordova, Arendir? You said he's
Yes,
not canon.
he is not canon.
Okay, well, I'm feeling things for that man. He's a very handsome man.
Yeah, well, he is a very handsome man. Marsha, if you know Marsha from the Nerd Emporium extravaganzas, Marsha has a big old crush on Ismael. So, um, fun fact.
I knew I was in good company.
Yeah, so Finrod is canon. Prince Durin the Fourth is canon. Disa, unfortunately, my girl Disa is not. High King Gilgalad is canon, and Hallbrand, as far as I know, is not canon. So they created Handsome Face for the show to rescue Galadriel 4 times. I counted them 4 times she was rescued from the water. So not sure what that's about, but anyway, thank you, Hallbrand, for saving Galadriel. So, all right, well, Brian, do you want to go into the episodes?
Yeah, let's go right from there. We get the Lord of the Rings feels immediately with the Galadriel voiceovers, which we knew we were getting even from the trailer back all the way to the Super Bowl. I will say that this wasn't marketed as heavily as I thought Amazon was going to market this. Like, there's
Yeah,
plenty of Rings of Power is on, but I feel like when they did like Grand Tour on Amazon, there was just as much stuff about it. So
yeah,
I mean, they still had 25 million viewers in the first 24 hours. It's an Amazon Prime record. They're getting their money's worth, but they spent $485 million on a budget for this film, and then everything else that they've spent on top of that. They're expecting this first season to have cost about $1 billion. So there's a lot going on. It's chump change to Amazon. They don't care. Who is
right.
going to come subscribe to Prime that already doesn't have Prime for this show? Again, I don't know, but I am all in, and I'm glad they spared no expense, according to Dr. John Hammond. But I they had me right away. I think the voiceover, the way they cover,
Yeah,
how much they covered so quickly, really surprised me because I thought that's what this entire show was going to be. But they covered a lot of that ground very quickly, and then got us in
yep.
while they're searching for the place of the orcs. Like that was interesting to me, and the snow troll was really cool.
That was super cool. I'm with you. I am a huge fan of the first 17 minutes and 38 seconds. It is the way that they just ripped through so much of the Silmarillion in such a short amount of time, even down to the details like Finrod, her brother. On first watch, it looks like his funeral is after the battle, right? So you think, oh, he must have died in battle, which is not canon. That's not how he dies in the Silmarillion. So he actually does fight Sauron face to face. It's actually through song. So, um, uh, who directed? Was it Scott Derrickson? No, not Scott Derrickson. Who am I thinking? Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi directing Multiverse of Madness, the music note fight.
Yeah, no thanks.
That's what it would have been like if Sam Raimi directed the Silmarillion. So Finrod actually dies from a werewolf wound.
I wasn't positive Finrod was dead at that point in time. He's on the table when she takes the dagger from him, but I wasn't positive he was dead. But obviously, we figure out later that he's
Yeah,
definitely dead.
he gone. Um, but they so if you so I rewatched it like 2 or 3 times, and on the second rewatch I noticed that he's got like a big gash in his arm, like three. So it looks like um they honored the original text, and it looks like maybe he died of a some sort of clawed creature mortally wounding him. So even so minute details like that are, oh my gosh, it's a dream come true. Finally, like getting a show like this, and the writers and the producers care enough to put that much detail in it. I'm on board. But yes, so the first 17 minutes, 38 seconds, I loved it. I
Can
loved
I
it. I
give a
loved it.
small can I give a small nitpick more about the two episodes in general that kind of
Yeah.
birthed by these first 15 minutes? I'm kind of done with the dagger specifically. Like
Okay.
it's always on her hip and she's always trying to pay attention to it. And I assume that's gonna come, like, it's a gift from her brother. Well, she kind of stole it from her dead brother's corpse, but it's her brother's thing, so she really cares about it. But like, we're at the point where she's sinking to the bottom of the ocean. They make a big deal to call out that it's still on her hip, and Handsome Face cuts her out of the ropes because of it. Like, I'm kind of just done with the dagger. Like, we're treating it like it is the one ring to rule them all. Like, the way it's focused on so many times, it really feels like they're trying to give the parallels to the ring, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
not that. So I hope it doesn't continue over the next 6 weeks. We'll see, but that's just kind of my nitpick from there. It's a cool dagger, like, don't get me wrong, but I don't think I'm gonna go buy a replica tomorrow of it.
It does, the first time you said that, I was like, I mean, I guess. But then I rewatched it after you said that, and it does pull focus quite a bit. Um,
Again, it's not the ring, but the way they
yeah.
focus on it so many times, it feels like that's kind of what they're going for, and maybe that is what they're going for, even
Hmm.
though it's like they're just trying to make it feel like I don't know, but I'm kind of done with the
See,
dagger.
and that's the way I feel. That's the way I feel about the Cimarils. I feel like they've referenced the Cimarils quite a bit, and then we have a tease that we'll get a Cimaril in the show, and I'll talk a little bit about the Cimarils in a little bit. But so we have the first 17 minutes 38 seconds. Oh my gosh, we got that snow troll battle with Galadriel and the snow troll, and she just like slices his jaw in half, and then like with the dagger just punctures his brain. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. The dagger to the top of the head was, yeah, that was awesome. I
Yeah.
loved that. The way they talk about the heat doesn't come off of the flame, like, all of that made perfect sense. Like,
Yep.
I liked it a lot.
Yep. Okay, so after 17 minutes 38 seconds, we are in Rovanion, about to meet Brian's favorites, the Harfoots.
Oh, thanks.
Ooh, what's that face?
I just don't find them interesting. I think in true fashion of Lord of the Rings, they're going to end up being the most important storyline of them all, Meteor Man included.
Yep.
But I don't think Nori is very interesting. I think the wolf is awesome. I want to see more of the wolf. That was kind of weird how we clearly laid the groundwork that wolf is going to do some serious damage in a couple of weeks.
Yep.
But the Harfoots, I don't have a ton of interest. I find Nori very annoying. I find Poppy very annoying. It'll come around, I'm sure. Merry and Pippin aren't always the most exciting either, but I love them to death. And if you say anything bad about either one of them, I will stab you in the dome with a dagger. But that is not a threat. Don't worry. Um, but I'm the Harfoots. I have no reason at this point to be interested except for the man in the meteor.
Yep. Yeah. Um
I
I
actually
don't
really like what's the main one's name that does all the research in the books. His name is Sadok, I believe, played by
Oh, say yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sadok.
Sadok, but what was his last
Barrows.
name? Burrows, that's
Burrows.
right.
But he
Yeah.
seems like he's going to be interesting. He seems to be the most wise of them. The way he's looking at the symbols and looking at the sky, I'm actually
Yeah.
really interested in him. He's the one I'm most interested in. The rest of the Harfoots, I'm not super interested.
I wonder if he'll be able to read the runes that Mystery Man wrote on the log, you know? And it looked like how when lightning strikes a log and it like blackens it and there's like an outline, it looks like he I don't know, it's weird. I don't know who that guy is yet. we'll get into theories, but
I think you know exactly who that guy is.
I hope I do. That would be awesome, but yeah, we'll see. So yeah, the wolves. Yeah, that wolf was icky.
That
Like,
wolf was cool. The
I
snow
mean,
troll was cool. The wolf was cool. The orcs looked good. Like they did a good job.
everything. I mean, I can see where a lot of that money went. With everything looks phenomenal. It just it all of the creatures look fantastic, which is makes me wonder what is stopping Marvel from spending a little more change on their CGI, but that's neither here nor there. So yeah, so we've got the wolves. The Harfoots run back, and they're talking about a migration in a couple of weeks. So I guess they pick up and move camp just so that they can stay anonymous. Is that what you gathered?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's all that makes the most sense. I want to see what had those antlers on the back of those hunters that walked through while the Harfoots were hidden, though. I want to see whatever those belong to.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, those were ginormous. Um, so and then we get to see, oh my gosh, the one of the other things I need to give a nod to the director of photography. And that guy's name is Oscar Faura. Um, his I mean, this whole show is just like a work of art. It's just so gorgeous. I mean, the our backdrop here is it's just stunning. Everything is so beautiful to look at. Um, so one of the things that I'm loving about this show is that we get to see, yeah, there it is. We get to see all these places, that maybe we didn't necessarily have the capabilities in 2001 when the first Lord of the Rings film came out. Maybe we didn't have the capability to do this back then, but I would have loved to have seen. I think we got to see a little bit of Rivendell, like just like the panoramic views, and then Khazad-dûm. We got to see Khazad-dûm, but not in its heyday, like we did
Mhm,
this week
mhm.
on this show. So I love seeing like Linden. Linden is the capital of the High Elves. We got to see Elrond here in his home. And speaking of, Galadriel and Elrond are cousins, not so distant cousins. Just little fun fact there. And then we have another of Brian's favorites. I keep saying that, but it's just because it makes me laugh. Is High King Gilgalad, and he is trying
I
to
really
get
like
rid
this
of
show for
Galadriel.
the record. The way you keep talking about it, it sounds like I have a bunch of hot takes, but I really like this show. But Gilgalad is up to no good, man. He's dirty, and we know he's what's the other elf's name that actually forged the ring for Sauron?
Keller
Because
Brimbur.
yeah, obviously a dirty, dirty person. So
Both of them.
they have to be, don't they?
Well, so I guess we'll talk a little bit about Keller Brimbur now. Full disclaimer: I don't know too much about Gilgalad. I don't know if he's bad or good. That remains
Is
to
he
be
canon?
seen. He looks like a doofus. So sorry to that actor. I
Is he
didn't mean
canon?
that. Gilgalad, yes, he is
Okay.
canon.
Okay.
Um,
It's just like you said, he stared at that leaf. Like maybe it's the first time, maybe it's not, but he's clearly going to keep that to himself. Like
yes,
he's
which is
not.
weird.
Yeah, well, he just wants to tell everybody, "Hey, it's all okay," when it's not okay.
Yep. Well, I mean, that's essentially gaslighting Galadriel.
Well,
You
yeah,
don't you don't do that to my girl.
you send her to Valinor, which
Yeah.
I want to go to Valinor.
I Oh man, the way that Gandalf describes it in Return of the King. Oh, I love it so much. Anyway, um so yeah, so Gilgalad is trying to get Galadriel out of there. Um and Elrond is telling her, it's a high honor from your king to be gifted the Undying Lands essentially.
Even
Yeah.
though the king and Elrond are both aware that everybody revolted against Galadriel at the end of those first 17 minutes, which I mean, they kind of you knew it was coming because the one guy tried to talk her out of
Yep.
keep going anyway, but they all basically mutinied against Galadriel, and he just wants to get rid of her. Like he does not want her in Lindon at all, and he'll send her to Valinor if he has to.
Yep.
And then she jumps out in the middle of the ocean because she thinks that's a great idea. But yes, he's not a good idea. Or he's not a good dude. Like I'm willing to stake my flag in that.
So yeah, in Keller Brimbur, he forges the One Ring, but he's technically tricked by Sauron to do that. So once he figures out that he's been tricked, he forges 3 other rings in secret and gives them to the elves to try and balance power. Spoiler alert, doesn't work, but he does try.
Worked out great.
We're fantastic. So anyway, yeah, so about Valinor and sailing to the Undying Lands, um, we get another dagger moment where she's reluctant to let go of the dagger, and we get that nice little conversation between her and Elrond where he says, "Put down your sword," and then she says, "Who am I without it?" Um, the writing in this show, let me give credit where credit is due. So, writers of episode 1, J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay. Writer of episode 2 is Jennifer Hutchison. Um, excellent, excellent writing. I thought, do you have any lines that stand out to you? I feel like there are a lot of like zingers that stick out to me.
Nothing that really sticks out. It just felt like a Lord of the Rings movie, which is all I cared about.
Yes. Yep. Um, she Galadriel looks at Elrond and she says, I'm grateful you've not known evil as I have, but you have not seen what I have seen." And that's talking about how many people she's lost and why she's continuing to search for Sauron.
The
But
one line
anyway,
the one line that really sticks out to me is from the very beginning of the show is like we didn't even have a word for death. Like I know I didn't quote that directly, but that hit heavy. Like
mhm,
that was tough. That was tough to hear.
yeah. Oh, that's a good one too. Mm. Um, yeah. Oh gosh, I oh, I just love this show. I love the show. I do. I think it's I first heard about it in 2018 when they announced at Comic-Con, and I have been waiting with bated breath ever since. And I don't feel like these first 2 episodes have disappointed at all. I think it's a great start. I know that there are the naysayers out there, but I think this is a great springboard into something even better. Um, so anyhow, so next we have Arondir. He stops at the local tavern in, where is that? Is it Tirharad? Is that where it is?
Yes, if that's how you pronounce it, but yes. It starts with a T and ends with a D.
Yes. Um, and so they get into, I guess they've been there. They've been stationed there for 79 years, keeping tabs on the people there. And one of the kids tries to get in a fight with Arondir and disrespects the barkeep, and the barkeep goes to punch him, and Arondir stops the punch from landing on the kid, and it kind of surprises the kid that he's willing to protect him even after he's disrespected him in front of all these people like that. Um, but I thought this was it shows how bleak the landscape is after it shows what happens when Sauron touches something, and it just kind of it's bleak and it's stark looking, and it's the whole village and the whole town, and then later with the cow, the stuff that comes out of the cow is just.
Yeah, it's not
What did you
chocolate.
think? What did you think of the town and
Uh,
Arondir?
I mean, again, I'm all in on Arendir. I think he's a very handsome man. Um, I, nobody, not nobody, the barkeep who needs to put on a shirt need like nobody's catching on to this relationship that he and Bronwyn have. It's very um Aragorn and um what's her name?
Arwen.
Arwen, like it has that kind of feel to it. You got the elf and the human, and it's just not ever supposed to work. But he loves her and she loves him, and he'll do everything that she needs him to do. So he's clearly like catching on, but nobody else is catching on. The elf, the other elf in the town that goes with Arendir seems to like kind of understand what's going on, but like they just can't believe that it's over. So when he goes back for her, it makes a ton of sense. But the town itself, pretty bleak as you would expect. We don't know who her son's dad is.
Yeah.
So there may be something to that, or there may be absolutely nothing to that. All I know is that kid hit puberty early because he has a very like that's the deepest voice I've ever heard.
He has a very, very deep voice. And he does not look old enough to have that voice.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm getting serious vibes of Tom Thumb from The Greatest Showman.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so speaking of that kid whose name is Theo, what does he find? What is that blade? Is that Sauron's sword?
That
What do you
is
think
the
that
sword,
is?
the replica sword I am going to go by. It's got to
Okay.
be Sauron's sword. I would very much assume that it's Sauron's sword.
Right?
It's the only thing that would make a ton of sense, especially when the blood in the second episode flows into it and it kind of starts to regrow, which again is kind of not a repurpose, but a shot we saw in the trailer. Um, Sauron looks incredible every time we've seen him in this show. So the more Sauron we deal with, the more I'm interested. Um,
Mhm.
I don't have a ton of interest in Theo, except for he's at the center of probably my favorite storyline so far. So
Yeah.
Bronwyn and Arendir are for whatever reason, I'm mostly invested in them. And that's also maybe because Aragorn's my favorite character from the original. So or from the original three. So I don't know for sure, but that sword's cool. But where he finds it, it's not a coincidence that it's all there. The orcs have that whole tunnel system.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all there. So it has to be Sauron's sword. I don't see it being anything else.
Do you think, ooh, what if that's what they're looking for, digging those tunnels?
Yeah, and I mean, it clearly has some sort of magic still left in it, considering it regrows whenever the blood hits it. But is that anything that we know that Sauron had a magical sword, for lack of a better term? Like, is it a Horcrux of some sort? Like,
Well, if you remember from the original movies, he had that mace. Remember
right.
that giant mace?
Hmm.
Oh, maybe that's because he lost his sword.
Well, yeah. So, I don't know. Like, I mean, I want Sauron to be more interested in ruling the kingdom rather than looking for his sword. But like, yeah, if it has magical powers, like how did it break? Obviously, we're gonna have to explore that. Or did it break? Or literally does it only grow when it's in the hands of Sauron somehow? Or does the kid have the blood of Sauron? Like I don't let's go real crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, or maybe it's like a Stormbreaker situation where, the magic is activated.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Um, I don't know. I didn't think about little what's his face being, but you know what? That would make sense because the Watch Warden talks about them being descended from evil men, I guess.
Right.
So that would be
Maybe the
interesting.
kid is Sauron. It's all a big red herring. Reincarnated. So that I don't know.
Hey,
At
it
this point,
could
we're now
be.
mixing two episodes, and I can't keep straight. I've only
No,
seen
I know. Okay.
it twice, so
So let's
uh,
let's wrap up episode 1 then. So Sauron sword, um Celebrim. Oh, so we go to, oh, where is it? Lord Keller Brimbur. I'm looking at I just stream of consciousness wrote all of these thoughts while they were happening in my head
Silver
watching
Fist.
this. Yes, Silverfist. Oh, and then Sadok says the skies are strange, and then we get a meteor.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be honest. Like I thought dirty King Gilgalad, like I thought he somehow like summoned a meteor to take out the boat that Galadriel was on, because that's what they were going back and forth.
Oh,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and then everything for Valinor like opened up, and then the meteor crashes, and I'm like, did it just take out that boat? One, that boat is very close to the Harfoots, and then I'm like, how did he do that? Like that's how she bailed. That's why she bailed. And then I'm like, then I kind of came back to earth a little bit, going, no, that's not what happened. But it was an interesting choice to balance those two scenes
Yeah,
together, because I can't believe that I'm the only one that thought like the meteor took out the boat for a split second.
yeah.
It was interesting the way they did it. And again, they had to do something to get me a little bit more invested in the Harfoots, and throwing this tall stranger in might be
Mhm.
the way to do it.
Some might say a tall drink of water.
Is he? A little too
No,
skinny.
no, not really. Yeah, a little too skinny. A little too hairy. Speaking of hair, what I mean, he's obviously clothed in once they get him um taken care of, they give him a gray robe. I so let's end episode 1 with some rampant speculation about who the mystery man is. I have I really just have one guess.
I only have one
Um,
guess because you said the one guess. There's a couple of different things. The way they film how he stands over the Harfoots is very, very similar to how Gandalf stands over Bilbo and Frodo and the hobbits. He has to be a wizard of some sort.
yes.
He has to be a wizard. Beyond that, I am completely out. I do think that it was interesting how at the beginning of the episode they talk about how the flame didn't give off any heat, and then Nori puts her hand in that fire and it's not hot. Are those two things related? They almost have to be, the way they called them both out like that. But he has to be a wizard, and I really thought it just gave you the feel goods because of how Gandalf stood with the hobbits and how much taller he was. I don't think that those are a coincidence the way that those were filmed. So wizard is where I stop. Now I know
Yep.
that is where you pick up from.
So, I also think it is a wizard. I the only problem I would have with that is they would be about they would be several thousand years early. Going by the Silmarillion, the wizards weren't sent to Middle Earth until the Third Age.
How were they sent?
The Valar sent them, and it doesn't say how. It doesn't, if they were sent by meteor or whatever. It just says that the Valar sent them to Middle Earth to help not negotiate, but help the free peoples of Middle Earth fight Sauron.
But it's all third age stuff, so they would be rewriting canon at this point.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. Because right now we saw the Battle of Beleriand,
At
which
this
we
point,
saw.
it doesn't feel like they have the balls to rewrite canon.
That's
Sorry.
why I can't. Okay, so the possibility, there is a small but distinct possibility that it could be one of the blue wizards. So there were 5 wizards that let me push my glasses up my nose real
This is
quick.
what we're here for.
So there were 5 wizards that were sent to Middle Earth by the Valar, and we know 3 of them. So we know Radagast the Brown, Gandalf the Gray, Sauron the White. But there were 2 blue wizards that were sent before those 3. It doesn't say when or like how long in between there was, but it could have been sometime in the Second Age, which I believe that's where we are right now.
Mhm.
I know we saw at the very beginning in those first 17 minutes, we saw some First Age stuff, like the Battle of Beleriand, where you see the battlefield go underwater. That was the Valar that did that. So that's like
That was
First
a
Age
great
stuff.
shot too. Holy,
Beautiful.
that was awesome.
So good. Um, so anyway, believe we're in the second age now. So if it's the blue wizards and the blue wizards were sent sometime in the second age, then that could be what it is. I think it would be such a huge missed opportunity if it was not Gandalf, but I can't justify messing with the canon like that.
I never even considered it being Gandalf.
Okay, good.
I when we talk about guts, I don't think any of them would have the guts to do that. I don't know if I would hate it, but I don't think I would love it. I don't think it's Gandalf. I think it's a wizard, but that'd be nuts.
Yeah. Yep.
Like a baby infant Gandalf.
Yeah. Yep. And
do you know if they don't speak the language when they first show up?
So Quenya would be the native tongue, and that's what, when he says mana ure, that is Quenya for what he's asking about the heat. He's saying, what is heat? So he's talking about heat, which is one of Gandalf's powers is he can manipulate light. And when he pulls the ring out of the fire in Fellowship of the Ring and it's not hot.
Right.
I don't know if that's him or the ring though.
I always assumed it to be the ring, but this is all brand new information to me. If that's Gandalf, dude, like that would be nuts. I don't think it's Gandalf. What are the names of the blue wizards?
Because
I don't think it's Radagast the Brown.
They might exist somewhere. Well, the only reason I thought it was Radagast is because he was talking to the fireflies, But Gandalf does that with moths.
Mm-hmm. Or eagles. He should have just had the eagles fly the ring to Mordor, right?
That's a whole other episode.
No, that's not an option, people.
Alex again. Alex.
Anyway. Dude's catching strays left and right, and he's not even on here to defend himself. So
the other possibility. Do you want to hear the other possibility first?
Absolutely.
Okay, so there is another possibility of who the mystery man might be. I saw this. I think it was Collider, so I want to give credit. I saw it on Collider online. They say that Sauron, when Sauron tricked Keller Brimbur into forging the Ring of Power, he took on a fair form, according to the Silmarillion. And so, meaning he looked like a normal human. He didn't look like Sauron. So there are people that are speculating that it could be Anatar, who is Sauron in man form. I don't know. I mean, the fireflies died. Yes.
I would be more into that than I would be Gandalf. Gandalf, you would have to do a lot to convince me. That would be interesting, but I feel like Sauron's hanging out somewhere, that he wouldn't have shown up via meteor.
Right. Yeah, that's
because if the wizards are sent, like, I'm 99% sure this is a wizard.
Yeah.
And the 1% is, I don't know what's going on, obviously. So we've got to leave that 1% out there. But the fireflies dying is a little bit of a bad omen, but I just don't imagine this guy being evil.
Well, and I wonder if they died because when he collapsed, on my rewatch, I noticed that they only fell to the ground when he collapsed. So I wonder if it was like a
life force thing.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I don't think it's that. I would be more interested if it's Gandalf. There's no way. Man, you got the gears turning. I do think it's a wizard. I do not think it's Gandalf. That is what I'm willing to say.
If I had to put my money on anything, because not Christopher, Simon Tolkien is a series consultant on the show. I don't think that he would let them make it Gandalf. I think it's probably one of the blue wizards.
There's always somebody's tipping point if the story is that good. But
True.
I'm going blue wizard. Do they have names yet?
Uh,
How about
I
Philip and
no,
Steve?
I'd have to look. Yeah, there you go, Steve.
Cool. I'm going with Steve the Blue Wizard.
All right, so that's our bottom line guess for who the mystery man is. That wraps up episode 1.
One more
Episode
thing on episode 1, I really liked the call out of which light are you going to follow, where she jumps
Yeah.
off the boat. I thought that was another piece of dialogue that was extremely representative of how Tolkien wrote, how these movies were written. I thought that was really good. Her jumping off the boat again. What is your plan? Who knows? But the scene with the worm and talking about it going into episode 2, we pick up right there where the name of the episode is Adrift. She's again the title, like the reason the episode is titled. Galadriel is our number 1 character in this show, but they are doing a really good job at giving us so many different storylines, so many different quote unquote main characters that nobody is the main character. Like think about just, and they're doing that with this show of Aragorn and Frodo and Gandalf and everybody that you have in the original film. There's not a main character. Like Sam's as much of a main character as Frodo is, at least for me, because Sam is the greatest. But like Aragorn is the king. He's the return of the king. Like there's so many different ways that they tell these different stories. And through 2 episodes, they've done the same thing here. They've given us 6 different storylines, all of which have very little overlap at this point until they do overlap. And it's going to give us a serious amount of payoff. And I'm all in. But Galadriel is far and away right now for me, probably, even though not my most invested storyline, my most interesting character.
Yes. Yep. Because I want to see that character. I want to see the transition from this bad bottom, butt kicking, like fierce warrior into, she makes fun of Elrond for being a politician, but she turns into the Lady of the Wood. I wanna see that happen. Oh my gosh, it's yes.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that for just a minute. Are you? Some people struggle with prequels. Take Solo, a Star Wars story, for example. Chewbacca and Han Solo are going to make it out of that film alive. There's a lack of stakes. Do you feel a lack of stakes, particularly around the elvish characters, because they're going to make it out alive? With Galadriel, like you said, you're excited to see how you get from point A to point B. I'm really excited for Elrond, how you get from point A with Durin to point B of where he doesn't trust the dwarves whatsoever at any point in time once we get into the Fellowship of the Ring. So so that's going to be an interesting way. So I think there's enough meat on the bone that there's a lot of character development that can still happen that we can watch. But I think some people's complaints are, particularly with those 2 characters, is we know they're not going to die. Therefore, why are we invested? We know Sauron's not going to die. We know a couple of different things. Is it struggling from a prequel standpoint for that reason for you?
I think because I'm emotionally invested in the emotional journey of the character, like for Galadriel, that I want to see those, because it's got to be some huge life events that lead her to the place we end up finding her in Fellowship of the Ring. And
it's almost so early, like High Republic Star. I keep going back to Star Wars, but High Republic Star Wars, like we're gonna go back to the beginning of, or like 200-year-old Yoda. There's 700 years in between there that who knows what could have happened. Galadriel, Elrond, same thing. The second age to the third age is just so much time that you almost feel like they're completely different people.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, that was a great question. I had to think about that one. Yeah.
Sorry to derail your outline, but I wanted, like,
no, that's okay.
That's one thing that, and I'm not struggling with it in this show quite. I keep talking about Star Wars, but Obi-Wan and Darth Vader, like I had no stakes in that show for me. Leia was going to live, Obi-Wan was going to live, Vader was going to live. Nothing was really ever going to happen. It was going to fill in a couple of blank spaces, but that was it.
Yeah.
So this does not have that same effect, partially because Elrond and Galadriel are the only two characters that we have any familiarization until we know who the wizard is. My other question to you, as the Lord of the Rings aficionado, are Harfoots hobbits?
Harfoots are the early. Hold on one second. Sorry.
This is going to hit YouTube live. It's going to be great.
I know. Sorry. I've got a bunch of little kiddos running around here. It's a birthday party. So trying to multitask, but they're just being kiddos. So can you repeat your question?
Are Harfoots hobbits?
Harfoots. Yes. They are the early precursors to hobbits. Yes.
They seem less hairy-feeted.
Little less hairy-feeted, a little less stationary. They migrate a lot. They don't live in holes in the ground yet.
The way they camouflage was cool. I enjoyed that. Like that, I thought that was pretty neat.
Yep. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, so I mean, I think they have the same endearing qualities as hobbits. I think, you know, one of the things for the Gandalf argument, you know, he had a very soft spot in his heart for hobbits.
Mhm.
And I wonder if that is him, I wonder if this is the start of it, of why he
I haven't been
fell in
able to
love.
process that because I genuinely had never considered that being Gandalf until 20 minutes ago. So all I know is if I were Gandalf, I would have a massive distrust of wheelchairs. Because when that wheelchair, it was airmailed. It was airmailed a million times over, going, that is going to roll down the hill, and it happened, and it was still funny. I very much enjoyed that.
I enjoyed that too. Yeah, they hide him. So they hide him away from the camp, which I thought was awesome. I thought that was interesting that they didn't want to take him into the camp. They're keeping him secret.
I just feel like that's the show's way of Nori doesn't trust anybody because she's the odd girl out. That's the only way I took it. I do. Is it Sadok? Is that what we decided?
Yes.
I'm excited when he meets him. Because that's gonna happen in the relative near future. And like you said, he's probably gonna be able to translate whatever was carved into that log. So I think that actor, Lenny Henry, is second on the cast list on IMDb. He's going to be a massive character.
Yep.
And right now we don't have any reason to believe that. So I feel like he's gonna be able to be.
So he's in all 8 episodes then?
He is.
Okay, cool.
According to IMDb, which again, be careful what you do when you're on IMDb, because you can either ruin things or make things better.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, full disclaimer there. Don't do as we do as we say. So the next scene is Arondir and Bronwyn surveying the damage to Bronwyn's hometown. And Arondir makes the comment that there are no bodies. So what are the orcs doing with those bodies?
Turning them into orcs. Is that a thing that can be done? I guess those are elvish bodies, right? So probably not.
Yeah, orcs.
So are they eating them?
I don't. Is that what they're doing? Oh, gross.
Yeah, I mean that has to be what they're doing. They're blood, milk, and cookies.
Gross. Yeah, we get that tunnel. Oh my gosh, yes, the tunnel scene. And then we get that wonderful, beautiful technique of the camera moving forward while the lens is zooming out.
How do you do that? Like cinematically, that shot stood out to me too. That was a brilliant shot.
Well, you remember it from Fellowship of the Ring?
Of course.
Yes, beautiful. I thought
It
even
has
if
a spider. It has a Peter Tingle spider sense to it. Like
it
the way
does.
that that's filmed. That's really what it. I went and saw this more fun version, the more fun stuff version of Spider-Man: No Way Home, and that scene right before the reveal of the Green Goblin is
Like,
so like it
yep,
is similar to that, and that's really what stood out to me. But yes, it was very Peter Jackson. They are not making these coincidences. They are conscious choices, and it's what they should be doing, and I love it.
yep, yep, same.
But that tunnel is crazy. Like that tunnel, it's interesting. Deer. I would assume. I mean, at this point, this is your show, so feel free to stop me. But we can just talk about
Go for
Deer
it.
from here on out, where he ends up in that pool of water, and
Yes.
they showed those hands grabbing him in the trailer. I wish they hadn't because I knew it was coming.
Yep.
I don't even like dissect these trailers as much as I do like a Marvel trailer or a Star Wars trailer, but still, I knew it was coming. But that was creepy, and that's the last time we saw him in this episode. So orcs, it has to be, unless
Yep.
it's somehow the way the people escaped the orcs. Is that possible? I don't think so. I feel like the orcs are just eating those people, and that's why
Yeah.
they called out that there was nobody there.
Yep. And I think he's probably going to discover that in the next episode. Whatever is happening to them.
Mhm.
Um yeah, because it was the same claws, the claws that reached out and grabbed him were the same ones that came out of the floorboard in Bronwyn's house.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, I
The
guess they
same
were.
thing.
Yeah, kind of those long. Yeah,
Yep.
that orc was cool, and he's if you've seen Prey on Hulu, like the new Prey
Yeah,
film, like it had that same helmet. The way
that
she
was
got him to take
crazy.
the helmet off was cool. Like Theo kind of coming to the rescue a little bit. Like that entire scene with the orc was really cool. Him coming out of the floorboards like that,
Yep.
super intense. Did a great job. Again, who was the director? J.A. What's
Bayona.
Bayona? Nailed it for me. Again,
Yep.
much better than the 2 hours here was better than 2 hours spent on Jurassic World 2.
Yes. Agreed. 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 So next we have, speaking of places, we have Eregion, which is the realm of the Elven Smiths. So Feanor came from Eregion. He was the one who crafted the Silmarils, and we'll talk about those in a second. But this is Keller Brimbur's home. Oh, go ahead.
Just if you could define the Cimarils for the audience,
Yes.
not me, of course.
So the Silmarils are
Kidding.
one of the last remnants of um, Valinor that we have in Middle Earth. So Feanor created the Silmarils. He was trying to replicate the light. Oh, I didn't even talk about the two trees. So the two trees in Valinor were the source of all the light. It's kind of like the sun and the moon. So one tree was silver, one tree was gold, and all the light in Valinor came from those two trees. They show it at the very beginning when she talks about the conflict with Morgoth, and Morgoth came and destroyed their trees. He sucked out their light essentially. Um, but the last from the last oh gosh, what was it? Ungoliant, who is one of the ancestors of Shelob. So if you remember Shelob from Return of the King, the big hairy spider, that's Shelob. So she was descended from Ungoliant, who was also a big spider. And together, it was Morgoth and Ungoliant that destroyed the trees.
So what is Morgoth then?
So
Is
Mor-
he's not a spider?
So Morgoth is not a spider. Morgoth is in the form of man, but he's not a man.
He's
He's
also
one of
not Sauron.
He's not Sauron. Sauron is a servant of Morgoth. And Morgoth was originally called Melkor. So I believe it was the High Elves that renamed Melkor as Morgoth. I would have to I would have to look that up, but so Melkor, Morgoth, same. Um, so Silmarils. so Silmarils created by Feanor. He wanted to replicate the light that they had from the two trees that they showed at the beginning of episode 1. The Cimmerils also it's said that they resemble the light of Galadriel's hair. She's supposed to have really pretty hair. She does have really pretty hair. But anyway, so Feanor created the Silmarils. Melkor Ungoliant came down, destroyed the two trees, and then once Melkor Morgoth, I'm such a nerd. I can hear
these are made up words, but that's fine.
I can hear myself saying these words, and I'm like, oh my god.
This is why this is your show. This is why this show exists. This is riveting information to me, and maybe just
Okay,
me.
good.
I don't care. Keep going.
Okay. So it's said that the last true light of the two trees lived in the Silmarillion, or in the Silmarils. So Morgoth got jealous. He wanted to take the Silmarils. This huge the War of the Jewels happened. The Battle of Beleriand happened.
It's called Infinity War, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And and it was all over the Cimmerils. So there's all this conflict that is surrounding the Cimmerils, which is why it's such a big deal if this is why Elrond becomes upset with Durin, because Durin is hiding a Cimmeril, and the elves lost so many people because of the Cimmerils. I mean, everybody did, because Morgoth declared war on everybody.
But if I asked you to hold a Cimmeril in your hand, like, what is it? Like,
it's a jewel.
It's a jewel. Okay.
It's a jewel.
So it's the Infinity Stones.
Yes.
Okay, cool. But it's a jewel. And there are, how many do we know?
3. I think there are 3. I don't know if he created 3 or if there are 3 left.
Okay.
I know there are 3 currently in existence in the show.
I do think Durin has one.
I think so.
That makes the most sense. And again, by how are they going to explain why Elrond jumps from having a troll or a dwarf best friend and a lovely, lovely wife to how Elrond feels about the dwarves in the Fellowship of the Ring? That would make a ton of sense. I feel like Durin has one, and he's a little bit uneasy because of. But he has the tree too, which is really cool. That tree is awesome.
Oh, I know. I thought that was so sweet. The way that Disa says he cares for it and loves it, and that's sweet. So Elrond is assigned to Keller Brimbur to help Keller Brimbur build a forge that is strong enough to create something of real power, is what Keller Brimbur says. And Brian, is that kind of where you're like, these people who are power hungry like that, it just never ends well for that character?
Knowing that Keller Brimbur was the one that forged the ring, I mean, that's exactly where I went. So it does feel like a massive abuse of power. The elves clearly are the highest being within this entire world. So not overly surprising, but again, knowing that he forged the ring, it was a natural way of doing things at that point. Which, I mean, we're probably breaking the news to many people watching this that Keller Brimbur is actually the one that forged the ring. So sorry about spoiler alert, but that definitely, they're not going to change that, whether it's Gandalf or not.
Yep, agreed. So Keller Brimbur wants to make something of real power, and Sauron corrupts the process. It makes it sound like the process is already corrupted, kind of. With these, I mean, you can't just say real power and like have it be inconsequential. So
it doesn't, like there's going to be consequences for whatever that is, even if it's well intentioned or not. That's we've done this before.
Yep. So Elrond has the idea to go to Khazad-dûm to seek the help of the dwarves in forging this tower forge. He invokes the right of Sigyn Tarag to get an audience with Durin, he loses, and we see that he has planned that from the beginning. Um, and
He was going to lose anyway, whether he planned it
he
or
was
not.
he was going to lose anyway. Um, so that happened, and then we see on the elevator, the lift. That whole scene was just so. That actor Owen Arthur, I thought he did such a great job because you have to act through all the prosthetics on your face and a giant wig and a giant beard, and he still communicated such depth of emotion. I thought he did an outstanding job when he says, 20 years may be a blink of an eye to an elf, but I've lived an entire life in that time, a life that you missed. Ugh, he got me. Um, so that was fantastic. What did you think of that scene, Brian?
I thought that was really great. I'm apologize. I want to give credit where credit is due. The actor that plays Gimli.
Oh, John Rhys Davies.
Yes. He lived up to everything that John Rhys Davies said because he really is able to act through those prosthetics, that wig, that beard, everything you were talking about. Gimli is a massive character to live up to.
Yep.
No pun intended. I love Gimli like so much. So being able to get back into have a dwarf that I want to love. Is he really going to piss off Elrond? It feels like that probably is going to be at the point. I still feel like I'm going to love Durin. I know I love his wife, his kids. Did we ever see their faces? I only remember
Nope.
seeing them with
The
those big
head
helmets on.
things.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited to meet the rest of the family. But I just that scene on the elevator on the way out, you knew he was going to be able to talk to him. That
Mhm.
again, another perfect. You asked me for lines of dialogue. Nothing stood out to me at the time, but I've lived a whole life in those 20 years, a blink of an eye to an elf. Just really well thought out, really interesting, and it really makes you think and it makes you
Yep.
feel for the character, which is exactly what they're going for.
Mhm. And speaking of feeling things, the dynamic between Durin Durin the Fourth and Disa is just perfect. I thought, um, their chemistry was like spot on, and um, she's just such a joy. Like she's just so sweet and such a light. I feel like in that dark place. They're underground, um, and she's just such a sweetheart. So I really liked them. Um,
Let's talk
and
about the
then
worm.
the worm scene. Um, we learned that Halbrand's home was destroyed by orcs, Sauron, and he and Galadriel have a very vulnerable moment between the two of them where she kind of puts him in his place and says, it would take longer than your lifetime just to say the names of the people that he's taken from me. Just the writing is so good. Um, so yeah, what about this scene did you like, Brian, besides the CGI?
The worm was cool. Like it had very like Pirates of the Caribbean feels where you're looking through the fog and it looks like a ship is coming on you, and then it's actually just the spine of the worm with pieces of the ship and the sails sticking off of it. Really brilliantly done. Um, the way that the camera, you talked about it earlier, the way the camera was kind of half in the water, half out of the water, all that was practical. Where they had the way it was raining down on her, the lightning. Well, I guess was there lightning? Maybe I'm just no. The lightning came later. I'm kind of
Yeah.
mixing the scenes together, but uh, handsome face knowing that he needs to get away and he cuts his part of the boat just off and he's willing to help Galadriel at that point. But just the way the worm looked, the way the worm acted, the way that all of that happened, I thought it was really, really fun,
Yep.
for
Yep.
lack of a better term.
Sundering seas. Oh,
Yeah, they put
yeah.
the sundering part, and you can see the worm on the map at the very beginning of the show too. The worm is in
Oh,
that in
really? Oh,
too, yeah.
nice.
So really cool.
So after we learn that Halbrand's home was destroyed by orcs, then we get Bronwyn going to the tavern asking for help, a la Beauty and the Beast style, where Belle's dad goes to the tavern and they're like, nah, Yo,
Crazy old Maurice.
So they're like, how can we know that you're telling the truth without proof? So she's like, all right, I'll bring you the head of an orc that came out of the floorboards of my house.
She lived up to her
And
word.
and she and Theo kicked its butt. That whole scene, so spooky. So spooky, so good.
Yeah, I love that scene. It was one of my top 3, and I stand by it. I thought that
Yep.
scene was incredible. It had all the right tension that it should have had. And again, the way the warrior the orc has the helmet, like he was actually like prepared for battle.
Yep.
I thought it was cool. It is not mice in the floorboards.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
She lays that head on the table though, and everybody's like, okay, like we're in.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Maurice got the mirror.
She's like, if y'all want to live, we're peacing out first light. And when the next time we see her and she says, Theo, are you ready? There's like a long line of people in the background headed out.
Yep.
So
Marching single file to hide their numbers.
yeah, good job, Ronald. So yeah, the last thing I have for episode 2 is the Cimmeril in the chest. And I said Cimmeril in the chest because I think that is what Durin the Fourth and Durin the Third are hiding from Elrond.
That was not something I put together. I didn't even pay that much attention to the chest until you brought it to my attention, and it's the only thing that makes sense at this point.
Yep. Yep, that's true. Sauron's blade. Oh, okay, so the last thing, the real last thing. Who is about to rescue Galadriel?
I don't know the answer to that question.
It looked like Elrond's robes, but I don't know how he would get there so fast.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's some sort of other elf that also didn't go back to Valinor, or it's somebody that left Valinor because she didn't show up. That would make the most sense with how quickly they got there. I think it's an elf, but beyond that, I have zero theories whatsoever.
Yeah.
But Fancy Faces or Handsome Faces he's knocked out. He's not dead.
Yeah.
But
He'll
they're
be
sharing they're sharing the door like Jack and Rose didn't.
fine.
Like he's still alive, so they'll be saved. I think it's an elf, but beyond that, again, it does look like it's Elrond's robes, but you would have to do a lot to explain that one to me, considering he was just with Durin
Doom.
10 minutes before.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's what we've got for y'all.
The woods. It's too early for her to meet the people of the woods already.
The Greenleafs?
Yeah.
That could be.
I feel like it's too soon.
But it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Tinfoil hat. Anything is a possibility.
Anything's a possibility, but it's not Gandalf. Not Gandalf. That would be nuts. Holy cow.
You're gonna. I hope you have dreams about that tonight.
I might.
Okay.
Fly, you.
I might too. All right, y'all. Well, thank you for joining us for our inaugural episode of One Pod to Rule Them All. Brian, do you have anything you want to plug?
Earth's Mightiest Weirdos will be back next Monday talking She-Hulks 3 and 4 and everything that comes out of Marvel Studios D23. Andor coming up very soon. So I don't have to talk about Star Wars here on One Pod to Rule Them All. I can talk about Star Wars on Babu's freaking podcast. That'll be back with Andor on a 3-episode premiere on the 21st of September. Which there's a lot going on from September 21st to September 25th for me. So I have to find a way to watch Andor in there somewhere, but those things are all coming. Comics and Cinema with Alex Klein on Tuesday nights. Agents of Field podcast only for the most part. We're doing an NFL preview this week. Anywhere you find your podcast, Agents of Field. The Nerdy Girls After Dark are for Thursdays. They always have their own plan. I'm never included there. So, but a lot coming, and stick close to the Nerd Life Network. We will be back hopefully next Sunday night.
Yeah.
Not hopefully. We will be back next Sunday night.
Yes. Until then, we will see y'all in Middle Earth.